Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
I'm Chris.
And we're the Film Flamers, and it's time for another Film Flamers Hot Take. Last night, at the time of this recording, Chris and I went to go see the Gaspar Noé French movie Climax.
Yeah, we went and saw Climax at the Alamo Drafthouse in Dallas, and we didn't quite know where to put our emotions on this one.
Yeah, we had to sort of let it meld in our minds for a little bit overnight and then come back and try to talk about it. So we just want to say, first of all, some spoilers may be spilled in this particular episode. So if you have not seen Climax and you really want to, press pause and go watch it, and we'll be here waiting for you.
Yeah, and I remembering some of our conversations just walking out of the theater, and I think that we both were kind of like, we really liked that, but we can't recommend it.
Yeah, I was like immediately trying to think of what kind of a rating I would give to it. I'm still not quite sure. I think by the end of this episode, I'll come up with a definite answer, but I can see myself recommending this movie for particular reasons, but not wholeheartedly enough that I would say this is one of those movies that you just have to see.
Yeah, and I think it's fair. It almost transcends a rating because it's not a traditional film, right? Yeah, exactly. It's very experimental in a way, and we could have a whole discussion about plot versus story, or something with this film, but I really don't think there's much there to mine as far as I think the director wasn't trying to send a message so much as he was trying to incite a feeling. Right. And you do get kind of a contact high from this film, at least I did.
Very definitely. Because, there's so much crazy camera work and a nonstop soundtrack that's playing in the background. And even, so much of this movie is based around dance and movement, and just some of the angles that these dancers create with their bodies, or people dancing next to each other and so on and so forth, just really create this hallucinatory experience that I think is what this movie is supposed to be. Right.
Yeah, and it actually never showed any hallucinations on the part of the dancers from any kind of first-person perspective or anything. It was all in the camera watching how they were reacting to what was happening to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a smart move because it still incites that feeling of being in that situation.
Exactly. If
you give anything to this film, it's that it's transportive.
Correct. Yes, I would say that. I would say that it's an experience as opposed to, a story. Mm-hmm. The movie is focused around a LSD-laced sangria punch that the people in this dance troupe are drinking, and slowly throughout the night, shit really hits the fan, and we sort of see what happens when they've taken all these drugs. And, this director has other movies that are similar to that. I would say that a lot of Gaspar Noé's work is an experience as opposed to watching a film, right? He likes to experiment, not only in the technical aspects of film, but also in some storyline and plots. So one of his earlier movies is called Irreversible. It's another French sort of rape revenge movie. And he really takes that movie to places that we hadn't seen in cinema before, with graphic violence and sexual depictions. And that's sort of the school of film that he is a part of. I'm a big fan of French extremity movies. So you have things like Irreversible, you have things like High Tension or Martyrs. And this movie fits really well into that particular, subgenre of horror.
Yeah. He also did Enter the Void, which is really talked about a lot, I think, in some circles. And I have not seen it, but I want to see it, especially after seeing this one. I'd like to see some of his more edgy work. And that's one thing that we actually came away from in this film, was that we were expecting it to be more disturbing or more edgy. And there was very little graphic violence in this film, I would say. There was very little disturbing content besides the feeling that it incites. There's nothing really on screen that is, over the top or something like you'd find in Suspiria, for instance.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I haven't seen Under the Void either. In fact, the only other movie I've seen was Irreversible. Yeah. And to me, that movie was far more shocking than anything that we saw in Climax. The difference is that the stuff that, you see in that particular movie is sort of assaulting you right away. And in Climax, you have sort of an anticipation that things are going to go bad, right? That shit's about to hit the fan. And you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? And I don't think that we get that sort of payoff.
Well, it's kind of a slow burn.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely.
And it does keep happening. I never really felt like I didn't climax. There is some payoff. for all of the long extended, camera sequences. And it really straddles that line where the camera is following people in certain sequences where it almost seems to go on for a really long time. And it kind of straddles that line between boring and, anticipation. Exactly. Yeah.
So I really can't say, and we were talking about this last night as well, that I don't feel that I was bored watching this movie.
No. It does keep you interested.
Yeah. But at the same time, I just wasn't completely satisfied. So I don't know. I do like, this movie opens with a dance troupe that has been newly formed, sort of having this dress rehearsal of a dance that they're going to be touring Europe and the United States with. And they've been rehearsing for 3 days or so. And we get to watch this dance number like we're sitting on the opposite side of the auditorium from them. So it's like actually watching it until the camera starts to pan around and you get to see like everything that's going on. And to me, that was like the best part of the movie.
Well, yeah, and it's not really so much the opening as there's the opening of the story, because a lot of stuff happens before that. You see audition tapes of the dancers, you see the end of the movie before the movie actually begins, you see the end credits before the movie begins. There's a lot of weird artistic decisions that were made in this film. There's some credits in the middle of the film, actually. And but yeah, so you actually see them do their rehearsal for this massive dance number. It's about a 6-minute long dance number. And I think you can find it on YouTube, actually, if you're interested. And but I would just suggest just to still see it with the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking to myself by the end of it, I was like, this is probably one of the best dance performances ever committed to film.
I have to agree. I was enthralled watching that.
In fact, I was thinking that. I was like tapping my chin, thinking, yeah, this is probably one of the best. Robert turns around to me and goes, that just made me cry.
My God, by the time that dance sequence ended, like, we're at the Alamo Drafthouse, obviously, so I got a beer, I got some food. I had to put down my chicken finger and just take a moment to weep silently in my chair. Like, I was so moved by the way that this was filmed and danced and choreographed, and just everything about it was fantastic. There were some moments in that dance that are so unapologetically queer, and it just made me feel good, both as a film goer and a gay man. And I don't know what happened, but I was overcome with emotion, verklempt, you might say. And I just had to tell my friend that, I'm crying right now because of this. I mean, it touched me in a special place.
Yeah, he climaxed emotionally.
Yes, at that particular part.
Crying is like orgasms for sad people. But there's something that I have to say about this film is that I would almost venture to say that it was expertly crafted, because you almost want to say they randomly put music in there. They randomly just, turn the cameras in ways that you could see. But there's like a 40-minute long shot, which is huge. And it all had to be expertly choreographed, not kind of like a dance in a way, I'm sure, with this huge cast. And the way the music, like the certain choices they made for the certain tracks that were played at certain times, and the lighting and everything is expertly crafted in order to get you, that feeling of, coming up on something, something's kicking in, and then at the height of that, and then coming down and everything. And it really does give you that kind of contact high and put you in that situation. It's very transporting in that sense, that it really does incite this feeling that you're there and that you are experiencing this in a way too.
I sort of get the idea that obviously he had the idea for the script based on a personal experience, but I think that he chose his soundtrack first and then made the movie. Like, these songs seem like they were chosen specifically, and they serve great points in the plot, like you just said, right? It's almost a character in itself in this particular
Or we
movie.
need a track that's really awesome, that just keeps going, right? At a very heavy tempo, and then essentially kind of slows down slowly and stuff. And that really, the auditory experience of that with the visuals really helps, like, to make you feel like you're there and basically intoxicated in a way.
Yeah.
The bass that's used is fairly well. I feel like, yeah, sure, some of those, maybe in a vast majority of them were picked beforehand, but the way they were placed and edited into the film was done very, very purposefully, I believe.
I agree. And there is a lot of bass heavy thumping dance music. And then toward the end of the movie, you're given something like an instrumental version of the Rolling Stones' Angie, which I think is very well placed in this movie.
Yeah. The only actual actor, I believe, that's in this film that you would recognize or even has a wiki page is Sofia Boutella. She's been in The Mummy, and she was in
Atomic Blonde,
and she's been in Star Trek Beyond and Kingsman. So she's fairly recognizable, and she does a fairly cool dance number herself as part of the main cast ensemble dance number.
Yeah, she's no stranger to genre.
But I believe almost everyone else in this film is really just a dancer, and I feel like they did, as an ensemble, an excellent job.
So yeah, I completely agree. I read a review yesterday before we went to go see the movie. I think it was Richard Roper. Don't quote me, but part of his review that was so negative was that he felt that these dancers were not actors at all, and he thought that their portrayal was like stiff and wooden, and he was just like, you can tell they're not actors. And I completely disagree with him. I think for people who are not used to acting in film or stage and who, just dance to get their story across, I think that the way they delivered dialogue and handled their characters was amazing.
Well, at the same time, dancers in a way are actors because they know how to move their body in such a way to incite an emotion. And they prove that in that first dance sequence.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're more naturally inclined to this sort of thing anyway. And so I felt like they did a fine job. Yeah. I didn't notice any bad acting.
No, I didn't either. I thought that everyone was good. It was believable to me.
Especially when they're all drinking alcohol and that's laced with LSD, They're essentially all, yeah. So, I mean, like, different people act in different ways in those situations. And I think it was amazingly done.
I know a lot of people in the community, the horror community especially, they want to see this movie. It's anticipated. It played at Fantastic Fest in Austin last year. So, I mean, I know that it's considered genre or horror, but I was thinking after we watched it, I was trying to think about other, quote unquote drug trip movies, right?
Yeah.
And where I would place this one with it, right? And it was a good movie and probably not something that I would ever watch again, but other movies that are similar to this, that have that drug trippy feeling, things like Requiem for a Dream, or even Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, right? Like, these are all movies that I enjoy and that I liked, but I just have never watched again.
Yeah, and I feel like Requiem for a Dream and that's all of those are kind of different because they have a narrative flow, they have story and plot, right?
Right.
Climax is about this one party. It could, like I was mentioning to you after we got out, it almost seemed like this could have been a large montage in the middle of a larger movie, right? Because it's one night, one thing is happening. There's not a lot happening as far as plot goes, as far as any of the characters' lives or human drama. There is some, but it's nothing to move a story forward. It's all like what's going to happen by the end of the night. Who's going to live? Who's going to die?
Yeah.
Whose life is going to be ruined? How are they going to get over this? Like, you're not even thinking those questions when you're watching this film because you're in the moment so much. You can't escape the moment because it's unceasing. It's part of that 40-minute long shot, where it's just going around the entire set, essentially, which is a huge set.
And I suppose that if you were in that particular situation yourself, then you also wouldn't be thinking about how this is going to affect the rest of your life or whose life is going to be ruined.
Exactly.
These are things that you don't think about until after you've come down from these drugs anyway. So
yeah. But, at the end of the day, if you see one experimental psychological horror dance film this year, go back and see Suspiria.
Agreed.
But honestly, if you do come across this film and you have some time and some patience and endurance, watch it. See what you think. It's worth it just for that opening dance number alone. And if you really want to kind of experience a feeling, then go along for the ride.
And I will say that after seeing Climax and having seen Reversible, I am really looking forward to going back and watching some of the rest of this director's oeuvre. And I would be really interested to see what you thought of his other movies as well. So I hope that one time we could be able to come back and have a conversation about his work.
Yeah.
But we have to rate this movie. I guess we don't have to, but we normally do in a hot take. So out of 5, what would you rate Climax?
Mine is a 5/1.
Simultaneously.
Yes.
I got onto Letterboxd today and I listed it in my diary of films, and I sat there with the stars and I hit 3. So yeah. I think it's a solid middle of the road movie. It was both good and bad for certain reasons. I enjoyed it. Probably not going to watch it again.
Yeah, to me, it wasn't just like there's good and bad that make a meh movie, but this had excellent parts.
Exactly.
You know, and it had moments where I would just like lost all patience, where I was actually got angry a little bit. And then I just, you know, got great again. So it's just such a huge ride to me. It's almost impossible for me to rate. It's an experience. It's not a normal film.
I did hear you sigh a couple times watching a movie. So, and normally if I sigh way too much in a movie, I tend to view it as bad. There are some movies that I just sigh all the way through it, and that's not good. But this one's a 3 for sure. So
one of the best things about our movie going experience last night was seeing trailers, and I don't know how this escaped both of our radars, but we saw a trailer for
The Field Guide to Horror.
The Field Guide to Horror, which is a six short film anthology movie.
Yeah, I think it's 8 actually. So it's 8 segments based on folklore, and these are all directors from different countries, and so it looks crazy. I really want to see this. And I think
it certainly doesn't look highfalutin. It looks straight up horror.
Yeah, it looks really good, and I'm glad that we got to do that. You know, the last time we did a hot take where you and I went to see the movie together was Anne and the Apocalypse, and we came away liking a trailer out of that too. So
yeah, good
movie watching experience for the trailers for sure. I believe that movie will be out by the time that we release this recording. Well, guys, if you have seen Climax, please let us know what you think. Did you like it? Did you get a contact high from this movie? We're really interested to know what you thought as well, and you can tell us on social media at The Film Flamers on Twitter or Facebook.
Or you can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com.
That's right. If you enjoyed this hot take and you want to listen to some others of ours, we have a couple on our main feed, but we also have many on our Patreon page at patreon.com/thefilmflamers. So go check those out for as little as $2.
And let your voice be heard. On our next iteration of Shooting the Flames, we can play your voicemail. So give us a call at 972-666-7733.
That's right. Well, I think I feel the need to go take some drugs and dance around your living room, Chris, so
sweet dreams.